My presentation is going to be brief. What they're going to project will eventually be brief, but I have a few things to note. So the first one is basically a background. What is the observation we made in the market? When you look at the last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years, we made an observation that many companies were struggling to sell. Many companies came to advertising agencies, and at the end of the year, at the end of the month, they're actually asking for sales results. But when they come to the agency, they are coming to you with marketing services, and you do absolutely well on social media, absolutely well on email marketing, absolutely well on YouTube, LinkedIn, wherever. And then the management of these organizations, they're always asking one thing: but we are not selling. You're doing a good job online, you're doing a good job on billboards, but what exactly is happening? You know? So there was a clear observation that was made, and that was one of it. Many were struggling to sell consistently. Many were having a difficulty when it comes to acquiring new clients, and many were having challenges and thinking that the solution was to do budget cuts. So they would try to freeze everything, because if I'm to reference my previous speaker here, the keynote address, he said that the sales department is actually very critical. Now, in my layman's Moses understanding, I have categorized companies into 3 departments. The first department is the getting department. The second department is the doing department, and then the third department is the managing department. Now, the getting department is the department whose number one role is to get new clients. Then the second department is now the technical department, the doing department. And then the third one is the management. Well, there are other departments, but from purposes of understanding, well, and as we consume this information, somehow you personalize things and you understand them better. So you notice that the reason why you don't have a very good HR person, you don't have very good technical teams, is that you are hiring based on your financial capability. You're not hiring because you have what it takes to take on anyone. So you find that the getting department is the only department that brings in new clients. So eventually, even if you have a very good managerial team, very good administrative team, very good technical team, as long as your finances are low, instead of having 3 people, you're going to have 1. Instead of having, sometimes you even have none. I've ever seen that role in a company that is kind of improvised. It is improvised not because it's a choice. It is improvised because the cash flows are low. That is why the theme for today's breakfast meeting is 1, rethinking your sales and business development this year, because for a long while, the sales department has been neglected. The getting department has been neglected. And do you know what happens? Is that whenever you neglect it, you'll feel the pain. You will feel the pain because you won't pay well, because these are the guys that are supposed to bring in the money for the rest of the people. Even if you have the most talented individuals in your technical department, as long as you are wailing and ailing in the area of sales, trust me, they are going to be bored after 1 year. You're going to see resignations. You're going to see people looking for better opportunities. Why? The getting department is not performing well. So that is that's the observation we made. Then we went on and interacted with various founders, managers, and some of the complaints they raised were, we are struggling to sell. I don't like sales. Clients don't see value for money. For some reason, we keep hiring people and they go. And the truth of the matter is that those were so many complaints of that nature, you know? When we looked at what works, we discovered that majority of these companies, the biggest sales could be traced back to the founder of the company. The biggest sales could be traced back to the managing director of the company. The biggest life-transforming sales, they could be traced back to that one critical person. There is a lot of stuff in the marketing space, like you feel like you want to jump on everything. it's zeroed down to one thing. What company leaders are looking for, they are looking for growth, they are looking for revenue. And then we pushed on forward, and we noticed that other sales avenues that were there were things like referrals from previous clients, the return of repeat businesses, and then participations on bids and tenders. Now, those are very good critical areas, but the problem is you have no control over the tender and the bid you're going to win. Yes, you've got referrals, but you have no control over referrals. Yes, you have repeat business, but you have no control. But the beautiful form of sales and business development is a type of sales and business development where you have a structure in place, it is predictable, it is normal. For a long while, if you agree, if you've been around this country, you will notice one thing, that companies are well structured. The HR department is well structured, technical department very well structured, and then when you look to sales, it's a bit very unclear. So, the other thing that we noticed was even the sales teams were frustrated, you know? People feel like they're overwhelmed. So you find that there is just something wrong. In fact, the last conversation I had recently with Alliance Française, I can't mention it well, but they train French. One particular person was saying that, why is it that there was a time we had a salesperson who was actually not even a salesperson, that there's a point when this particular person was working in sales and the sales were high, but they've tried to recruit for that role like a couple of times and the performance is low. And then she asked one thing, is there anything like a natural born salesman or not? And then when you look at this entire thing, what she was telling me, I had heard it in other departments, that they have what we call a rockstar salesman, and right now my narrative is on building a rockstar sales framework, because a rockstar salesman is so detrimental to your business. When he has a little bit of depression, your performance go low. When he's unhappy, your performance go low. When he gets a better job, forget. When he leaves, he has left. And the day he leaves, he initiates you on a path of more guesswork. Now you're recruiting more, because there are people whom we think are naturally talented in sales, but that's not true. Sales is not football. Sales is not basketball. Sales has a structure. So I noticed that in this industry where we are, we have two kinds of companies. We have the big companies, and then the big companies. The difference between these two big companies, that some big companies have structures in place and some big companies do not have proper structures in place, but either way they are equally big. The only issue is company A seems to be thriving well and company B seems to be struggling well but stable. So what is the conversation we are trying to look at? You could be identifying with one of these companies. You could be identifying with some of these sentiments that I've just shared with you today. The sentiment of the salesman who left. The sentiment of the three salespeople that you've had and you've never replaced. The guesswork, that entire boredom that you can't even figure out. So that is why, if you identify with any of those sentiments, my message to you is one, finally we have a solution. And the solution is one simple thing. It's called the sales framework. Sales by the sales framework. When I was having preliminary conversations to this, someone was asking me whether this is a new thing. The truth of the matter, when I talk about the sales framework, it's not a new thing. It is an ancient practice. It has been here. The big brands that you know, they have hidden it in plain, broad daylight. It is hidden, but it is in plain, broad daylight. In the next 1 minute or two, I'm going to show you, give you examples of some of the big brands that are doing what I'm about to tell you to do. Plainly speaking, they are doing it easily. When you look at companies A, the big brands that have mastered this, you're going to find one thing is that internally, you'll find that they have a proper sales framework. I'll be sharing what a sales framework looks like on the screen in a bit, but I wanted to establish the conversation well so that we dive in deeper. When you look at these companies, they have a proper sales framework that is the hidden script about what they do. The hidden script behind most of the big brands that you're seeing is a sales framework that they are not telling you, a sales framework that is hidden within the systems. I'm going to ask the team to give me the presentation. It's basically a one-page presentation, but it explains everything. Can I have that screen shared? So the thing that we are talking about in regards to the sales framework is basically about 3 or 4 things, and then the framework itself. I had to figure out ways, I had to narrow down this entire thing from a presentation of about 30 pages to one thing, because I wanted to share one thing in this room that someone can walk away with. And I'm going to show you what the big brands are doing and what you can potentially do. When we talk about the sales framework, we are talking about a systemized method, a systemized approach to approaching sales. Let me give you an example before I get into this. I'll give you one familiar framework that we know, and that framework is an HR framework. If you know you're an employee in a particular place and you've been doing these courses people like doing, CPA, SCA, whatever, and you have exams, there is a process. You're going to request, fill in a leave form, apply. There is a proper process of you getting your leave. You get my point? There are more simple processes and frameworks that you see in companies. Even mere entering an office, there is a registration book, there is do this. There seems to be a system that has been put in a place. But when it comes to the area of getting clients, to the area of client acquisition, we are seeing basically one thing. We are seeing a lot of guesswork. And my message to you, as long as you are here and you're seated here and you know that you are tired and bored by this thing of non-predictable methods to doing things, I know that by the end of this discussion, you're going to pick a leaf or two, because it is totally here. It is totally in plain sight. It is a simple framework. At the top of the framework, before I can even talk about the framework, there is one critical element. Step 1 is clarity of the value proposition. Now, that is clarity of the bigger value proposition. The bigger value proposition of a bank is loans. Their big thing is that they offer loans. It is very clear they offer loans, and there is a description of it, there is a name of it, and then there's a description to it. But then, I don't know what business you're representing, but equally on your end, the first step you're going to do to create a Rockstar sales framework for your business is to have a well-documented, when it's documented on paper, it is clear. The first one is clarity of the value proposition. Your value proposition could be in 4 areas, could be in 5 areas, could be in 8 areas, but whatever the case, you must have that booklet. You must have that document that shows exactly what you do. I'm about to show you how this is already working in broad daylight with about 2 to 3 brands, you know. Then the second step is now offer development and audience mapping based off your clarity of the value proposition. I gave you an example. I gave you an example of the banking sector. The bigger, broader value proposition is loans. But when you move on to step 2, you are now looking at offer development and then audience mapping. Offer development and audience mapping, it is as simple as this. We are doing our product. We have a loans product, yes, that is number 1. But now, are we going to move and sell the loan product everywhere? Then look into your target audience and begin to look at who is in pain, and their solution could be a loan. When you look at Makerere University and Chambogo, many of individuals in there are struggling because they cannot afford a laptop. So I am going to take a loan to campus students, and it's a loan product enabling them to access a laptop. It's not a fabricated story. It is based on one of the campaigns that Stanbic ran. It was called, I think it's called Funaka Laptop with Stanbic Bank. And all they did was to make sure they figured out methodologies of giving a 1.5 or providing a laptop to students in campus, in addition to onboarding them to probably a year of paying in small installments. I want you to do the math. If you gave about 10,000 students a loan, what would they do? How much money is that in terms of your interest? Because it's not costing them much. They need it. You can track them. So the second step here is now offer development and audience mapping. So I've given you the loan as a bank product is basically one of them, but there are many. Still in the loan section, the students might need a loan to get a laptop, but when you look at business owners, contractors, oftentimes they are getting business, they are getting tenders, they are winning tenders, and they do not have resources. You know what the banks then did? They developed another product called invoice discounting for anyone struggling to access money. You get my point? But it still remains one value proposition, one clear value proposition, which is what? The offer. Still, in the banking sector, you will notice again one more thing. They discovered that there are people that have an ability of, they have predictable income, but they do not have enough money to get what they need. Then they invented something called a salary loan. Remember, we are still on the same value proposition, but it's a different offer. Same value proposition, but a different offer. Still in the banking segment, you look critically, we are still on the loan product, and they are like, who else is struggling in the broader target audience? And they noticed that some individuals have money and they have incomplete, or they would love to get a house, and then they have a decent income, but if they are to use their money, the house may actually never get finished. And then you saw various things to do with mortgages. We'll give you this money, complete the house, and then they be with you for 15 years as you're paying. So if you want to build a Rockstar sales framework for your business, the first two steps that you have to master very well is the clarity of the broader value proposition. And then the second thing is the clarity of the offer in that order. Some companies are multi-portfolio companies, and some companies are single portfolio companies. Single portfolio companies could be like SafeBorder. It is an app. Of course, right now their portfolio is bigger. You can order more. But there are companies that are dealing in one thing. Then there are companies that are dealing in a range of services. So if you are a multi-portfolio product, then you need a multi-portfolio framework. The way you sell and where to sell a loan product to students is not the same method you're going to use when you're selling other things. What works for a bank is not going to work for a media company. What works for a media company is not going to work for a membership institution. So the thing that I feel so sorry about, the things I'm talking about, and because it's not the first time I'm sharing this, I've been working with different clients and helping them building systems. Everything sounds obvious and too simple, but we keep asking, why is it that we weren't doing it before? But in explanation, it sounds like A, B, C, D, you know? So the third thing to building a sales framework, or the third thing that you need to get into, is the commitment to the right client acquisition practices. Commitment, identification and commitment to the right client acquisition method. Now that is where guesswork happens. The guy you had in 2016 probably was a master on two practices. Then this other one you're bringing only knows social media. Everything you tell him to do social media, everything to do social media, everything. He has no strategic approach to the entire thing. So the deficit in most cases, when I tell you clarity of value proposition, it sounds like you know, and you can actually figure out. When I say offer development and audience mapping, it sounds like this is easy. This I could do. Now, where things begin to be complicated, yet they sound simple, is on step 3, where you commit to the right client acquisition. Because the friends and the circles that you're in of business owners, they are running companies and they are doing so good, so well on TikTok, you're also launching a TikTok account. But the question is, a TikTok account relevant? Because everyone is creating content on LinkedIn and they are doing well, you also, hey man, let me do what? Let me do LinkedIn. Because the other business is performing well when they are creating content on YouTube, you do that. Because the other business is doing well when they are creating maybe content on Instagram, you also do that. But the question is that for you, why? Why are you running social media? Why are you on Facebook? Why are you on on Twitter? There are companies that only need LinkedIn, period. And LinkedIn is broad, but there are companies that need a different angle of LinkedIn. But the issue is, absence of a sales framework makes you copy things you don't understand, and you do them very well, and makes you even hire people who do those things you don't understand, and you get results you don't understand. So, we are onboarding an agency, now do this. Man, the agency guys do amazing designs. All the time, social media. So it's looking wonderful. But then when you look in the sales bag, where is the money? The problem is not the agency. The problem is not the practice. The step 3, commitment to the right client acquisition practices. Is that a practice relevant to you? There are methods in sales that can blow your mind. I'll give you just one example of a method that can blow your mind depending on where we are. There is what we call the CLC method, the convene, lecture, and convert. I was having a conversation with a strategist whose strategy was to target airline companies using social media. And I told the brother, what exactly are you doing? The thing is, we can make, between me and you, I could give you 5 minutes and we'll give you a list of all airline companies in Uganda. So that's when the CLC method comes in. Can you identify them? Can you convene them? Can you take them to Serena? Can you envision them? Put them in a room, spend about 3 million on them, talk to them. And that method, you're going to convert 50% of the room. You're going to convert 80% of the room. But because the sales guy you have was taught digital, was taught social media, he's going to throw that stuff on there. So when it comes to client acquisition method, the only method that has been made so broad is content. Put content here, put content under the pressure. Now we are using influencers. You're doing what? The key thing I'm asking you today, when you look at the things you do, the products, the services, do you have a well-documented process? You can figure it out on your own, or I can help you figure that out, because it's the same universal principle. Whether you are a big company that is struggling to move to the next level, clarifying your sales process is going to work. Whether you are a small company struggling to get another client, understanding what a sales framework is and building one is going to help you. Whether you are a properly mature company, I didn't know that the problems of mature companies are different. There are companies that have no struggles with paying rent, that have no struggles with paying salaries, and their struggle is one thing: sameness. They are the same across all the year. And one of the persons who advises me, I asked them that now, if a company is mature, what do? Then the smallest thing a mature company can do is to replicate itself in other locations. You have a branch here, you have a branch there, but if you're a mature company and all you are is you're just a big mature thing stuck in one place, then your growth is a bit different. The growth of a small company is different. The growth of an MSME is different, but the growth of a mature company it's a different ballgame altogether. So you find a mature company still asking things like this. They've hired the wrong guy, and then the employment laws are saying certain things, and then they have to put up with a period of 8 months to honor the contract, as they are getting nothing but they are paying a person. Down here, for us who are still running moderate businesses, we've been trained to hire fast and fire fast. So we have a few advantages in there. But in the world of where companies are mature, things are a bit slow, you need to be a little bit more careful. So you find that even the big players are asking one question: what do we do differently? Because for a long while, we've been normal. Again, the secret is hidden in one thing: designing and customizing a sales framework that works for you. If you're a multi-portfolio company, you're going to have more than one framework, So the last step is commitment to the right framework. Let me give you a scenario. For a smaller company, the framework would just zero down to niching down. For a smaller company, the framework would be, I'll give you an example of a company that was a relatively small-sized company that was struggling to attract clients in the area of website design and hosting. The solution, eventually, they just came up with niche products targeting about 2 niches, and their sales pipeline was full. But when you looked at their performance, they were struggling to perform because they were approaching the market with the broader picture, with the broader everything that they are selling. So my key question to you today is one: would you think of building frameworks that promote each of your products? Still another conversation, someone was saying that it feels like what you're saying is hard, because the first conversation I had with them, it was simple. Normally explaining things is simple until you start executing. Then they called me and they're like, man, it's been a month, we're trying to do this, but it's not working. Then I just told him one thing: building a sales framework is hard but possible. Then also running business without a sales framework is hard but also possible. So the thing is, you have to choose your hard. You have to choose your hard. I rather build a process for 8 months knowing that next year I am going to be liberated than me continuously approach guesswork. So that is the broader picture. Now, once you have the sales framework in place, when we talk about the sales framework, it's all hidden into a universal sales framework, which starts with prospecting. Now, this is the actual framework in total summary. The first part of the framework is prospecting. Prospecting is identifying clients. I have seen people and they tell them, this is the product, find clients. And then they ask their boss, how do I find clients? Because they think that finding clients is putting things on social media. I'm not decampaigning social media. It has its place if it's well done. You get, the first step is prospecting. But once you get in depth, there are close to 50 methods of prospecting. Prospecting is you knowing, how do I get clients? There are clients that you're going to target on social media. There are clients that when you say social media, go ahead and break it down. There is an audience you're going to attract through LinkedIn. There is another audience you're going to attract through Instagram. Then there is another audience that you're going to attract through YouTube and TikTok. You get my point? But when you have a clarity of your value proposition, your product, the problems you solve, the people, you have an ideal picture of your target audience. Every time you look at that picture and you look at their digital footprints, you're going to see where they are. You're going to see where they are, as long as it is clear. But what is happening is that we are on the front end of marketing, and you know what we are doing? We have no clarity of what we are doing. So no wonder you wake up and you're seeing posts like Monday motivation. You're seeing things like Sunday this. Have you ever seen those beautiful, nice things on social media that are actually not aligned to bringing value? You've seen that? It is now when you play the game so well, but the fundamentals are unclear. When the value proposition is unclear, even your prospecting is going to be bad. So there are different methods in prospecting. You know, when we had this conversation, we have the CEO breakfast meeting for FUE happening on 21st. And then there was this CEO breakfast meeting. There deserved to be a big difference. So for us to converge people in the room, we had about 5 days. We had about less than 10 days actually. Now that is when you speak things to do with sales, and you start, most of my peers do not like to use the word marketing. They do not like the word sales, because the last time they used the word sales, they were frustrated. It is very possible to organize a function and end up with 10 people. It is very that shows you have a gap in your sales area. It is very possible for you to organize a thing and the attendance is low. So, back to this entire thing. We had a short span, but because the framework and the method was right, we got the results. There is nothing, there is hardly anyone who came here because they know Moses, that they are supporting a peer. No. There was a clear audience profile. There was a clear problem we are addressing. There was a clear particular person, and there was a clear method deployed. And the response is short to 81. 81 participants within 8 days. You get my point? Why? Because the framework was clear. The problem is not what you're selling. The problem, sometimes the problem is what you're selling. That is why when we make you think through your things, there are products you improve, there are products you knock off. You get? There is a product that is not adding value to you, and you are consistently investing your time on it. Sometimes you pause it and refine it. If it's non-refinable, you shelve it until further notice. There are products you're selling or services that you're selling, and they're not for this audience. And you're like, you know what? When I find the right audience, I'll get to it, but for now, this is it. So, first step to the sales framework is prospecting. The truth of the matter, there are 50 plus methods of prospecting. Step number 2, connecting and qualifying the leads. Not every person who puts up a hand has the budget. Again, when it comes to connecting and qualifying leads, there are close to 7 methods alone that can be used to laser cut your what? To laser target your audience. So that is why we're in the process of building a sales framework of your business. Those are some of the fundamentals. Those are some of the key things that are actually critical, you know. I'll move on to the next one. In the 7th step, the first step is prospecting. The second one is qualifying, you know, connecting and qualifying. And then the third one is a needs analysis. Now that is the third step. It's basically a needs analysis where you make this phone call. I don't know whether it's a phone call, whether it's a physical visit, but I love phone calls because they make me do more. Ask a few questions. When you get the proper knowledge in designing sales frameworks, you'll notice there are key questions, about 3 to 4 questions that help you not waste time. All you need is maybe 5 minutes, maybe 8 minutes on the phone call. Do a quick prospecting call, then go to a needs analysis, and then the next one in line, as I wait for the presentation to come back, is after the needs analysis is where the presentation is made. Now you present the offer. Reason being, you have prospected, you have got the client, you have contacted them, you have had a qualifying conversation with them, and now you go, because during the segment of the qualifying, during the segment of needs analysis, your presentation is going to be informed by the what? By the questions that you answered, by the observations that you made. When you come back, there is just no way that person is not going to buy, because you're not inventing. That is why oftentimes it is repetitively said that try your level best to create products for your clients. Do not force your products on your own clients, but try to give them the product they need, not the product that you want. Because technically speaking, things do not work that way. Because I'm a man and you've heard that I have a daughter, there is no license that you should sell to me wigs. Figure out the target audience. That's probably my wife or something, but it does not mean I look like a target, but I'm not. You understand? So that is what happens when you begin to force. When you begin to force methods, you're going to force audience and force things on people. But when you figure out, again, at the bit of the connecting more methods, researching about the company, researching about the client, that is another one. The fourth one, like giving an effective pitch, that's the presentation comes in, there's a bit of handling objections, the closing, there are about 7 closing methods. And then after it is done, there is what we call nurturing and continuing. That is where, once I've walked my 7 stages, I qualify to get some clients through word of mouth. I qualify to get some clients because they are return clients. But you cannot continuously do business at the mercy of repeat business. Everyone has their own challenges. No one is there to recommend you because you did a good service. You know, but if they recommend it, is nice. You remind them to recommend you, but you cannot wake up a single day and you're like, the clients that I served in the last years, they should be the one. You must have your own framework that is customized. The key question that oftentimes at this point people are asking is, one, how do I actually do this? There are only 3 avenues for you if you want to do what I'm going to do. One is to just get a summary of this conversation. It's doable, it's practical principles, and go figure it out with your what? With your team. As long as you have the first information, then the second information can be figured out. That is, but oftentimes it becomes hard. You know? The second thing that you can probably do is to request for a quick conversation, a quick analysis, a quick audit on your sales processes. It's a free, as long as you reach out to Price Media, it is a free assessment. If it takes a day, we do it in a day. If it takes 3 days, we do it in 3 days. If it takes a week, we do it in 3 days. But the second avenue you can try is to just have that conversation where we talk about your business. We talk about those particular things, you know? But at least for us to bring the clarity. Then the third avenue that you can consider to implement the things that are being shared here is when you request for what we call a guided workshop. A guided workshop is where I come or another colleague of mine comes and works with you in your boardroom. As long as you have flip charts here and there, we would document and everything, and then eventually with your consultation, we will laser target exactly what works. Because what works is always hidden in your room, but you need someone to uncover it. So that is the third avenue of support that you can get. Then the fourth avenue of support, if you are committed to people development, that is the reason why we designed the sales development program. A brochure was shared. You've seen the program. The program is extremely deep, extremely deep and in-depth. And it's a program where you can send 2 representatives to walk a 6-month journey. I mean, a 6 weeks journey, but specifically teaching you how to sell with a framework. Remember, the goal of this conversation and the goal of the sales development program is to bring to an end the edge of the sales rockstar and enable you build a rockstar sales development program. We want a situation whereby when your salesperson leaves, nothing dies because they left a system. One other thing I forgot to highlight is, why should human resource professionals pay attention to this conversation? The only reason why human resource professionals should pay attention to this conversation, if you know that when it comes to sales, we have a 7-step system, chances are very high we are not going to only hire one salesperson. We might be hiring 4, we might be hiring 5, having different strengths. If you notice, recently there was a role there's a job role that is becoming common in the market because the information is coming out. There is something called a lead generation specialist. A lead generation specialist, his role starts and ends at the beginning of the sales framework. Their role is to generate leads, that is all. But now what is happening, the mistake that we've traditionally been doing for a long while is that we are making one man walk 7 steps. And their strength is on step 1. Then there is a very good person when it comes to closing. He gets a job because he needs a job, but then when you tell him to prospect, he just does not know how to prospect. So you end up having one guy and firing that one guy, and then bringing another one guy and letting that guy go. You know, the most open positions, I hope everyone agrees on this, the most open positions, they are sales. People reached a point of getting bored with this hiring for sales that they started even hiring people's kids to work for commission. You get my point? That when you bring business, we pay you. Like, they just don't want to commit with you because they've seen enough. But the people who are still honoring and paying their sales professionals they have a structure. Now they begin to hire into the structure. They have a framework. They begin to hire into the framework. When you look at the big brands that I'm talking about, they have roles like corporate affairs because they know very well the corporate affairs manager cannot be, when you're dealing with the so-called rich people, you shouldn't be the same person. They need a different thing. So you find that in their sales framework, it is clear they need a corporate salesperson or a corporate whatever. It's the same thing, they just phrase it a bit differently. Because a part of their sales process for whatever that project is, it requires that. I'll give you an example. When Airtel was launching Momo or MTN was launching Momo, they did not look forward to sponsoring ads. Because their sales framework required one thing. It didn't require any TV ad. It did not require anything like a billboard. It just required on-ground work. They had direct sales representatives deployed in every mall, onboarding people, telling them you can receive money and at no extra fee. And within a short span of time, because at that time, a friend's company was hired to do the direct sales on ground, the foot soldier approach to marketing. And that was what worked. Sometimes what is going to work in your business is nothing to do with digital. It is offline, but you have to have the knowledge and willingness to make the decision of that, because this part, not all products, but this particular part, we sell it direct, using direct sales. Then there are other products that you're going to sell by converging people in the room. There are other products that you're going to sell by making a promotion. There are other products that you're going to sell using telesales. You've had things like telesales where people just make calls. But they're making calls because the thing they are making calls about it is so sure. The way you sell rental houses, you can't do telesales. You can't get a phone book and you start making people finding out who wants to rent. It's a different method. But there are products where all you need to do is to camp on your desk and make 60 phone calls a day and convert 10. 60 phone calls a day and convert 10. If each one of them, if the product is maybe giving you like $1,000, then you're probably getting $5,000 or whatever. So the reason why it is important to have a well-documented sales framework put in place is that you will now begin to make smart decisions on who you hire. So that is why I implore everyone here to pick interest in this conversation. I do not mind. I have nothing to do with the size of your business. If the only thing I want to hear about your business is you're thriving and you're selling and you're closing, that is all. Because at the end of the day, when you look critically, business is a force for good. The people you employ, they have families, they are livelihoods. You get my point? So there's a point where you have to have that realization that the businesses we are doing, they're actually bigger than what we can think. So it is rather better to build another business, because your business could be probably the place where my daughter or my son is going to do their internship or even get a job. So if I could have an opportunity of building your business and putting you in a place where you can attract more clients to your business, it is better. There is nothing nice about being in a community where businesses are going down. Like, it's not a one-man's affair. So I want to recommend and highly encourage every person to start thinking framework. When you have a proper framework and you have it is clear that you do not have revenue, that you have this sum of money, you could still get a fresh graduate and put them at a specific level of the framework, and they'll give you results. And they will not actually, that's how the people who employed us did. They fixed us at particular framework, at particular stages, and you did amazing things at that stage, but the mastermind knows what you're doing. For you think you're great, but you've been hired to perform this well. Whether you have the big picture or not, they have the big picture. So the reason why we specifically wanted company leaders, people who are bothered by poor performance of business, is this. I cannot waste such a brilliant presentation on sales representatives who are unhappy about how much they earn and they are busy looking for other jobs, and you sent them to attend this forum on your behalf, and then a few months later, they are out. But if a leader makes time and they come in this place and they hear this, all I'm asking you is one thing. The days of a rockstar salesman must come to an end, because they are coming to an end. We need to move at that time where we are building rockstar sales frameworks, a framework that is known by you. Because of legal problems businesses end up in, businesses are paying attention to being safe in the legal space, and they're doing it well. Just like you've put enough effort in understanding all the legal complexities, please put enough time in building frameworks towards the getting department and get more business. Because the truth of the matter is that the money you haven't got is probably hidden in the product you haven't discovered. The client that you're looking for is hidden in the framework that you have not designed. Like I told you, it's forever going to be the same value proposition, but packaged and offered differently to different audiences. So I could go on, but those are the 4 avenues of support. You can pick this information and use it as it is. Number 2, you can request a framework. You can request an assessment, an audit conversation, and we'll just have a conversation, talk about the different segments of the things that you do. The difference between me and you is that probably you understand your business more, but have had a rare opportunity of interfacing with different businesses. So when I'm having a look at your products and services, I am busy comparing with you, comparing your offers to other people you have no idea about. Probably I'm going to speak an insight that helps you. The third thing is to just simply put together your team, your core team that sells, and we just do a simple, it's normally a long discussion, but it's worth it. It's just a guided workshop. It's not me teaching you anything. It's basically a guided workshop where we look into your products, document them, and have these things, and then see. Because at stage 2, you're capable of giving birth to too many things. At stage 2, where it comes to the offers, to the audience mapping, you're capable of getting more. But if you have no worthy person to have this conversation, then the 4th avenue I would highly recommend is we have the sales development program coming up. You can sign up your people, send them. That brochure is written with absolute detail, how the program runs. Participants are going to have the lecture, but the lecture is going to end with an assignment about the organization where they come from. And they are going to have a physical session where they meet one-on-one and better each other. And then they will definitely always have a talk. They will always have a talk from another professional, because like I told you, the sales framework is not a new thing. It's been here. It's just that it has been hidden in broad daylight. So those are the 4 avenues. At this particular point, if you have any questions in regards to the keynote address, if you have any questions, probably that's the next thing on the agenda. So for now, I would love to rest my case at this particular point.